right. Town Center Advisory Board meeting for September 19th, 2024 is called to order. We have a roll call.
Committee member Stephenson,
Present.
Chair Leamy,
Here.
committee member Castillo White. Here. Committee member Andrews,
Here.
committee member Knight,
Present.
committee member Rizzo,
Here.
committee member Kester,
Here.
committee member Hill,
Here.
committee member Prickett,
Here.
vice chair Allen.
Here.
All right. Let's rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Bill is going to lead us.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Do we have any public comment on non-agenda items? See anybody online? We have nobody here. So we'll move along. Did everyone get a copy of the minutes? Any changes? Do we want to change? I noticed that in here, Diane was referred to as Mrs. Castillo. I'm questioning if that should be that or Mrs. White. Or Castillo White. How would you prefer?
Castillo White. Castillo White, that's great.
Castillo
Thank you.
White. Okay,
We'll make those
so
changes.
there's several
Yes.
mentions of her in there. That was the only thing that I saw. Any other corrections? Okay, do I can move?
This is Carol. I will make a motion to accept the minutes of September, or not September, of August 15th, 2024.
This is Shirley, I second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Is that as amended?
That's what I was just about to say.
Oh, as amended.
Oh, as amended.
I said,
All right, so we'll open it up to discussion of the draft RFQ. I did notice one thing in it that I thought we needed to probably
You wanna,
delete a portion of one of the paragraphs. Right off the top.
Which page?
Is it page
Let's
17
see
by chance?
which one it was. Okay, so page 23, when it says connectivity.
Do you want me to pull this up on the screen as well, or? Great.
That might help. We've got one person online, it looks like.
Yeah. Frank, would you like it on the screen?
No,
Oh, he's got it up.
okay, he's got it. So in that paragraph, bottom sentence says the city has regular communication and an established relationship with Time Equities, but no alternative access plan has been agreed upon at this time. And per our minutes and Ray Young, he said the outlet mall owners, Time Equity, refused to have any relationship with the city.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking that that first part of that was fine, but we need to delete that last sentence out of there.
And I think there's a similar paragraph on page 17.
Okay, I probably didn't catch it in that one.
We do have communication. Not so much time.
Or maybe
The outlet mall.
he might
Right, but
have
it's Time
thought
Equities that
23
they would
was.
have to deal
Oh,
with.
yeah, I
to
think
get
so.
access through it.
So
if
I'm
they want to
thinking,
do the
that's what I
straight
think.
shot.
Never mind, that was it. Surely me, never mind, it's not on page 17, it was on page 23.
I mean, I think we can leave in
Because, yeah, page 17.
the part of if a more direct site access is desired from 257, it will require participation from Time Equities, who are the owners.
Yeah.
You can leave that in there, but it's up to whoever is doing the project to negotiate with them, keep the city out of it. Am I wrong?
The city would be involved because it would be their street.
257th or?
257th way.
Way.
It would be their street, so they would be involved. I don't think there's a way to do it without them being involved.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just not meeting.
The alternative access plan's been agreed upon at this time, would be accurate. Right?
That part would be correct, that last part of that sentence, but the
Yeah.
first part is not.
Yeah, there's a little love lost there.
So how much,
So-
what would you take out then?
So could you just say, this is Carol, could you just say, there are no alternative access plan that has been agreed upon at that time, so just have that one last part of the sentence there and the rest be removed?
Okay.
Yeah,
Because there is no plan and, I thought that Time Equities didn't want us to contact them at all. That was my
Well, that was kind
understanding.
of what Ray left.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
yeah.
That-
So that last sentence, we could change it to be like, at this time, or currently, I don't, we'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
could
At this time, no alternative access plan has been agreed upon.
Right.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay.
But should we consider for the future, something along those lines? I remember last time we talked that, you know, this may not be the owner of this facility forever.
Well, I think at this time
I understand that.
would cover that.
Yeah.
This is Zach, if I may. Are you referring to the more kind of direct point that we made about planning for, on the other side of the property, the potential for
Yes.
eventually
Yes.
that to intersect?
For there not to be an
Yeah.
immovable structure placed right where a road would eventually potentially go through there. Yeah, that's all I was referring to. And maybe that's implied in the language and kind of obfuscating that. That's fine.
There was I don't remember what page it's on now off the top of my head, but there is an edit that is somewhere in here that talks about having the street design be responsive to that, like responsive to future planning.
Page 10. I think it's pretty clear what we're saying without saying it. That makes sense.
Yeah, encourages creative, long-range design that imagines potential opportunities in the future. in the above site plan on that page, it does show that concept as well.
For the sake of our own sanity and the health of any proposal we get back, though, I mean, it's worthwhile for any prospective developers to understand, as long as time equity is in the mix, that outlet mall is a black box. And that they're not gonna deal with anybody. Cause they've made that abundantly clear to anybody that's contacted.
I just didn't want to come across too optimistic.
Yeah, exactly, that's kind of my point, is that we don't wanna be overly optimistic and have another capstone come in and hinge everything on the hope that they can get time equities to play ball.
Well, I would say you also don't necessarily know the relationship and any type of value that would be there. So it'd be really hard to say it's a black box to anybody.
Yeah,
It
true,
could be a black box to
yeah,
Capstone, but maybe not to Ecos or whoever.
yeah, true, yeah, no, I don't think we necessarily need to state that it's an impossibility, but unlikely would be, yeah, I don't know, I guess, I'm with John, it's like, I think we need to avoid any unnecessary optimism on that point in the RFQ.
You need some optimism.
Well, just for the access point though. We can have an optimistic RFQ, but but our own past history in the last few months has pretty much shown us that time equities is really unwilling to talk to anybody.
I just thought it made it sound like we had a really good relationship with time equities. They actually, and we don't know on Ethos, they actually had a walkway going through the mall to get to the property. Which, whether time equities knew that, that was a, you know, had they talked to time equities and got approval, or is this just their proposal? Time equities said no. Except they were partnering with time equities. So, yes.
This is Zach. I am curious if it would be beneficial for us to put in, whether it's in requirements as like a bonus item or something like that when it comes to the vision, but I know many of us have voiced concerns about obviously seeing some of like the mixed use spaces remain empty. Obviously that would not be an ideal situation down here, but I know one of the benefits that Capstone brought to the table was essentially kind of like pre-mapped partners that they were kind of coming in swinging with when it comes to like, oh, okay, like we can envision this. If these guys are going to be down here, we know that they have people that are going to be hitting the ground running. It's going to immediately be something that is going to drive business. It's going to immediately feel like a community, ideally, you know, something like that. So maybe, I'm just putting that out there for everybody to consider when it comes to maybe thinking like coming in with partners in potential partners might be a benefit, added bonus.
Or would you approach that like in the interview? Request that of them when they came in for an interview, or how would you do that?
I think that we briefly mention it. It's funny to see all
I
these.
know,
I'm trying to figure out where exactly it is, because I do remember reading it. I feel like this page 24 might not have included an edit. Let me look at it on my computer really quick. Yeah, so this was downloaded before all the edits were on there. So page 24 on the screen shows a couple of edits. And in the first bullet point, we do have what kinds of uses or tenants do you believe are best suited for this site?
It's this one.
But it doesn't say anything specific. I really thought there was something else in there, but we could find a place to add something like that. I think that the way that Capstone proposed it was, that was part of their development team. You know, like as future tenants, they listed them as part of their development team.
I wonder if on page 13, where it says development offer overview, you've got the red box up there in the red box in the upper left-hand corner. The city is seeking a concept plan and maybe ask for like examples of potential tenants.
Yes. I swear
Wouldn't
there's.
part of a standard development plan be a plan, a strategy to get tenants in to fill the space? I mean, is that not a normal thing in the early stages of a development?
Not this early.
Okay.
This is Zach. I mean, based on the other RFQs that we received last time, none of the other ones that were vetted and submitted that I'm aware of had specific partnerships listed or anything like that. It was all just a general guideline for basically getting mostly apartments built first and then businesses after, so.
Call me educated then.
I mean, we could, like, on page 24, and just going back to page 24, we could add, like a clarifying sentence that we, like, describe, they could describe any future partnerships. And we can,
Talking about the
Page is
bike
this,
hub page?
24?
No, the page 24,
oh, the vision and plan for the site.
Got
yeah,
it. Okay.
not page, yeah.
Yeah.
So is that 24 of the packet or 24 of the document?
Oh, 24 the document,
Got it.
Page 24,
sorry.
Got it.
not this page 24.
It should say packet page 30.
Vision. This is Zach. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that.
Yeah.
Just like a simple clarifying line in that same area, just describing future partnerships
Yep.
and businesses like tenants, yeah.
And going back to page 7/13, where we were about development offering overview. The little brown corner box where it says vision, is the second line supposed to be responsive?
Yep.
Not responsive.
Surprisingly difficult to edit this PDF, and the computer, it was like 1 letter per minute, or, yeah, 1 letter per minute. I was like, oh my
Because
gosh.
that is responsive.
So I did not catch that one, yes.
I would also observe that on page 24 of the RFQ doc, there, in the vision and plan for the site, there seems to be an extraneous space in plan.
Yes,
Oh, they're all over the place, yeah.
It's all over the place, yeah.
yeah, we have to go back.
So
and
this, to
clean those up.
clarify, I edited the PDF in Adobe Acrobat, which is why
I'm sorry.
it messes up a little bit. I have the InDesign file, it was just that I didn't wanna, I wanted to do this first and have us have a final version before I did the InDesign version, because I was gonna have to link a bunch of fonts and images and all sorts of things that I
Thanks
didn't
for all
have
your
time to
work
find.
Appreciated.
I
Um,
have,
Oh,
I
sorry.
have 2 very small edits.
Okay.
Optimistic edits. On page, let's see here. Ooh, I don't know if it's page 12 or packet 12.
Probably package 12.
I think it's packet 12. When it talks about, the new park, there's 2 places where it talks about the construction of the new park. And I want to be optimistic, basically saying that it will be completed in the summer of 2025 and not fall of 2025. That's what we're aiming for.
Okay.
That is actually page 12 of the document and
Okay.
not of the packet.
Not-
Actually, no, it's.
We'll find it, it's in there.
Is it page 6, 12, or
It's
is it
page
page
15.
12? Oh,
It's page
numbered.
15/21.
Okay, thank you.
It says fall of 2025, so he said, well, summer?
Summer.
The summer of 2025?
21, okay. Like fall of 2025,
So
you say?
it's gonna be summer of 20,
summer, so
next summer,
2025.
yes.
Right about the same time Stark Street Bridge opens.
Right there below the name.
And then this is Zach, on that, on page 17/23, under connectivity with the section kind of showing the URA site there. The third paragraph says, city has also identified location for the bike pedestrian bridge over the railroad. Bridge project is included in the city's capital improvement plan, thus will be eligible for SDC credits if funded. I know we ran into some interesting obstacles there from Union Pacific and the like when it comes to the actual feasibility of even talking about doing anything over the railroad. Is that actually on the table?
It's in the TSP.
It's in the TSP, I think it's on the table, I think we, right now, as we're having this conversation with them about the undercrossing for the trail, we'll wait for the trail project to get done
Sure.
and then move forward with
Okay,
another
but it
project.
is, but it isn't necessarily a,
But it's not a barrier,
okay, great.
it's an ask.
Sure. Big ask, got it. Great.
This is Will, page 21/27. The zoning, right-hand side under additional requirements include, the first bullet point there references the drive or street to the outlet mall must remain a public street, kind of going back instead of putting that in. Should we maybe like put that bullet point to the bottom and put like any potential drive or street? Kind of still leave it optimistic, but not really have it as the drive that we're gonna have through the outlet mall. Must remain a public street.
Well,
Or is that
or is
referring-
the driver street through the outlet mall, including the existing right of way around?
Is that what it means, or is it?
Any
it's
of
not-
them would be a public street.
How about we could
It's
just
not
say
referencing
any?
Yeah,
Any would probably.
Any is the better,
good call.
Yeah, drives or streets.
And I guess maybe it's from my bias of knowing what we just talked about with going through the outlet mall when it says through the outlet mall, I'm thinking literally driving through the outlet mall, not around 257, so sorry.
On the same section, bullet point 3, do we consider that drive to be residential street? Or do we consider that to be a collector? What would the classification of the,
Of 257th Way?
yeah,
That's a good question. I don't have the TSP with me.
Could probably be,
That would be a public,
it'd be a public street, but
I mean,
I think it might be a local street.
if you're
It's
going
smaller
through
than a
the
collector.
mall and you're putting in a planting strip,
uh-huh.
I think that kind of be a deal breaker,
Oh, for the mall folks?
yeah.
Maybe.
You could end it before it started by leaving that in there, probably.
Yeah, I don't have the TSP on me, but I'm pretty sure 257th Way would be a local street
Okay,
and not a collector, because it's, yeah. But
so how would we address that?
I don't think we have to.
Well, what we're saying is that any of them, right, would be 28 feet with a planting strip, buffering the sidewalk, and on-street parking on both sides of the street. So if you went through the mall, you'd have something that looks like I-84 by the time it all got done. Am I right?
It would be small, the pavement width would be
28
28 feet.
plus the
Plus the
planter
planter and the sidewalk,
and the parking.
yes.
And you couldn't do that on 257th Way anyhow, you don't have enough right of way.
Do you want us to talk about the standard for 257th Way in here?
Well, I'm just saying, I don't know that you've got enough room to build it to that standard. Right?
I honestly, I don't know.
Okay,
I would have to look to see how that street is classified and talk to Travis.
I would just say that if you were going through the mall, you couldn't do it with this standard.
This is hard,
I just don't know,
Does
because
that-
I don't know the
right,
right-of-way width.
because if the right of way were larger than the buildings would have to go. Just, I mean,
well, I know the discussion was that by approving it, all the parking was going away from in front of.
Yes.
Right, but I'm talking about specifically, right, if you're putting a road through the mall, and you're putting a road through the mall that's 28 feet wide, plus sidewalks, plus planter strips, plus parking on both sides, it's now like a 60-foot street.
we did just do the street study, which made me, yeah.
The
picture that with
28,
parking too.
Oh, do you have it on there?
the 28-foot wide right-of-way from the town center overlay zone, so from, chapter 4 of the Troutdale Development Code is a 50-foot right-of-way, so it's a 28-foot wide street, 5-foot wide planter strip on either side, and 5-foot wide sidewalk on either side, so it's 50 feet total. I don't know how wide the street is, but I'm trying to go to Sale, or not the street, well, the street, it's not currently a street. See if I can measure it.
I'm just saying, if you were trying to get access through the mall and you were gonna make them put on-street parking on both sides, that just seems kind of mean. Okay.
Kind of mean.
Do I can? Yeah, because I think something like that would just be like it. What do you think of that stuff?
This little gap would be not easy possible, just because the right buildings are. You don't have that much of a setback.
We could go county road with the same as the bottom.
Parallel with car.
Right, that's why we're saying 8 feet on each side.
No.
Wouldn't be able to.
What's the width?
Angle it like we have now.
About 40 feet?
Or maybe you
Yeah.
could waive parking on that side, since you've got a parking lot.
Yeah, so it would just be, it would be modified.
And then
Well, they would have to acquire
That's another shop.
slightly more to be able to fit that.
Yeah, but we would work with the right of way that we have. So maybe you, if it were to have parking, maybe it would be parking on one side of the street and not both sides of the street. You have to see what fits in the lines, you can color.
Color in the lines.
I'm just thinking, you have a parking lot on one side of the street, so you waive parking requirements.
Based on the measurement I'm seeing, I mean, at the point where 257th Way goes between the two buildings, that's not much more than 50 feet, just between wall to wall of the buildings.
Right.
Right.
Between the end of the sidewalk by Eddie Bowers and the corner.
Well, I know the city is taking on the responsibility of designing that street, of engineering that street.
So this is probably referring more so to what's on
inside.
site. Because this street is not on site for the development that we're referring to either. It's not part of that,
So this is really
Property.
talking about the inside,
yeah, within,
inside the box.
and it's pulling straight from the chapter 4 town center overlay zoning district section. So that is where that is coming from.
Word a little bit.
You want to say local streets within the Confluence site to give it more context?
Yeah, probably.
It could also be good in that section if, when we're talking about zoning and we're referencing a specific standard, we can like have in parentheses where that specific standard in the zoning code came from. So that when we say that, it says TDC 4 point yada, 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 so that they can then go look it up and verify what we're saying with the code. One of the things I didn't point out earlier, but if you see something highlighted in orange, that means that I just had a comment on it in my own PDF, and it stayed orange when it printed, so if anyone was confused as to why that was orange.
So you want to say how, because it didn't show up on here, how we switched the project goals?
Yeah.
Want to talk about that?
So if we want to talk really quick about the project goals section, which is page 5 of the document,
I noticed
and
your little red box up in the upper right.
Yeah, question for all of you.
yes. Yeah, so we reorganized this a little bit to feel a little more consistent and cohesive. Because it had the 4 titles on the top, but then it was under 5 different categories. And then, if you remember in the previous version, there were different headers above each of these, but instead we made it more like a statement, a vision statement with all of the bullets under it.
A vibrant destination connected to nature and the community that values local history, sustainable design, and livability. I think we captured everything that we talked about in
Right.
the last meeting.
Yeah, and we took out some of the, there was words in there like consider placement of roads, and so we removed consider because it didn't, I mean, anyone can consider anything and then not do it, so,
We made it a little more direct.
yeah. And use placemaking elements, not consider our history.
Yeah. Use our history.
Do it.
Yeah, just do it.
And if anyone thinks that there's anything missing from there, I think that this section is probably a pretty important section for conveying what we want the most.
Zadrian, do we want to, on the third bullet point in the second column, do we want to remove, where it says improved and more direct access from 257th Avenue to the west? Do we want to get rid of the more direct part of that since we, based on what we talked about thus far?
Well, it just said 257th Drive / Graham Way or Graham Road or whatever we can never keep it straight what the road's actually called, so. So if the city is planning on doing the improvements to 257th
Drive
Way,
away.
Yeah.
then it's not really something we're necessarily asking of the developer, so I guess I could see
Probably just strike that.
I would, yeah.
why, yeah, we might not need it.
So take that one out.
Well, the way I read it is a more improved access to, from 257, not from 257th Avenue, which is the main. No, it doesn't reference way, it reference avenue. So there's a difference there.
But is that actually 257th Avenue there?
And the arterial is.
The arterial is, that's where they're coming, they're saying more improved direct access from 257th Avenue, not from 257th Way. There's a difference.
Yeah, where's Graham start?
I would strike it, yeah. Because that's confusing.
It does seem to imply that it was originally referencing a hole through the outlet mall.
So on your sample plan here. Could we maybe, if you're gonna do that, would you put up one that was a little more popular?
So the capstone one?
Well, something,
Something that doesn't have all of the large buildings right up against the waterfront?
this wasn't what everybody thought was the best plan.
It's a good point.
I was wondering that too.
So I would say maybe something different or nothing at all.
I would agree with that.
It's probably gonna have to be nothing at all, unless we wanna pay an architect to give us a new plan. Because I don't think we have the ability to use or modify anything that was submitted to us during the first round that we might have liked.
Yeah,
So,
we can't do that.
and if you guys don't like this, then we would have to not include it, or we would have to pay YBA to modify it for us.
Give me $5, I'll mess around with Photoshop.
I'm not even sure if we are allowed to do that, I mean, I don't know what, if we're even
We
allowed to.
own, yeah, I don't know if we own that or not.
I do know the architect who made it though, we wanna reach out to them and ask them.
I'm just
Change
wondering
something.
if we could change the language and maybe say like sample site plan or, no?
Then set your goals high, because I just feel like we're like, this is Plan B. Here, check out Plan B. They're gonna be Plan B or less. I wouldn't think if you sent this out, they'd be like, oh, we can do better than that.
Should we just take it out?
I mean, if,
Leave it up to
I
you
would
guys?
say, I mean, if there's, this is Zach, I mean, if you wanna explore whatever options you want, I mean, I would prefer obviously not to pay for another rendering, I would rather take it out if we don't have the option of using any of the other imagery
Yeah, which
that
we
may
don't.
not, so, I mean, yeah, if you're double checking if that's the case, then I would say just remove it. That's my vote too. Good call.
One of the things that we could do maybe in place of that is find some inspiration photos that we like, you know, of other projects, because there isn't a lot of,
Yeah,
there's a couple of photos that it, you know, is showing other things that we like, but there's not a ton, and so we could look at creating
collage.
a mood board of sorts.
Yeah.
A Pinterest board
Yeah.
of waterfront development?
I've made so many Pinterest boards recently, so just add it to the mix.
Yeah. This is Zach, I know it's been one of the things that I've, repeated many times, but I think it might benefit us again, just to kind of throw it in there, in the same section we're looking in, within the, let's see here, it's on the second page of the project goals, under the values, activate the edge of the new riverfront park with vibrant uses and programming, maybe somewhere right around there, we could also throw in, again, maximizing vertical space or rooftop space, or, you know, just to throw in like that, kind of get them thinking more about utilizing space like that.
Sure all dining spaces and outdoor function spaces are facing east. And that is actually a hard consideration from a design standpoint. It's like, the waterfront is what we want to expose and want everybody to experience, unless the wind is coming from that direction.
One thing I just realized under additional resources that we didn't add is the destination strategic plan.
Where you at?
So we'll have to add that to the additional resources, because that is really helpful for considering any hotel developers or hotel operators. They would like to see something like that a lot. Page 37.
And this is Zach, and again, I'm sure you probably even already have an edited copy, but, I imagine obviously the anticipated schedule is gonna change, but I just wanted to put that on radar in case for whatever reason it got.
Yeah, on the version
Yeah,
that I have,
okay, cool,
it says 2D
figured,
on it.
thank you.
Yeah, maybe that's sort of another thing so one of the things that I highlighted on this page 6 of the document, there are a couple of other things that are more interesting that we could say to sell the site on the second page than just like kind of Steve Tyler optics. So I was gonna work on pulling a placer report and try to get some more interesting stats about the number of people that are visiting Troutdale and recovery from COVID and if anyone was listening to the council presentation, like some of those numbers to be able to put on this second page or earlier on in the document. I just didn't have time to pull it together and put it in here, so I'm hoping that for the next meeting I can add some more information from that data that we have access to. And they work with a lot of economic development teams, so I was gonna see if they had any recommended reports that we could include in the additional resources as well. That's why that's updated, or that's why that's highlighted, is because on my computer it says full place report. I also highlighted the quote from Randy because I didn't know if we wanted to get an updated quote from whoever the new mayor is, since this is likely gonna go off in the spring, he will not be the mayor anymore. Like, alternatively, it could just say former mayor. Either way.
Well, this is Carol, I like the quote, and I guess we can see what happens after the election and just write former. I mean, I'm good with that.
We can also move this quote somewhere else as well, so that it is, so I do think it's important on the first, just like these initial pages, that it's who the potential developer would be working with, like who they would build a connection with at the city, and who the city leadership is coming from. Like, I think that that's important to convey in the beginning. But I do like the quote, and we have other quotes in here as well, so we can just move some things around if we want to.
This is Diane. Marta, can you say the quote?
The quote is, "We are so excited that you have expressed an interest in partnering with us to create an iconic development at the gateway to one of the world's most amazing natural wonders. The city is looking for a creative and innovative partner to create an inspiring and desirable location for all."
Thank you.
On 6, question for utilities, how are you planning on managing stormwater on that site? Do we know that?
No, we don't know that, but under project goals, it does talk about, the infrastructure, minimize resource usage based on environmental impacts, maximize on-site energy production, stormwater treatment, taking advantage of the site's strategic location. Very briefly talks about that, but no, it's not specific.
This is Zach. Under the zoning section with residential parking minimums and whatnot, we're gonna have to update that to reflect recent state changes when it comes to essentially a lack of a minimum, and if so, are we able to include, recommended or city recommendations, maybe?
Yeah.
Page 22/28.
Yes, and I had that marked,
Okay.
yeah. Because I remember talking about it.
And with it being mixed use, it'd be one per.
I don't think so, because I think it's like within a half mile of transit. So there's no parking, there's just no parking minimums. We have city recommended parking minimums, and we could, you know, see city recommended parking minimums.
This is Carol. I have been saying for a long time, parking is very much a big concern here. And I know what Portland is doing, and I know that they don't believe in parking, but we are not Portland. We don't have a store that's right across the street. It's, what, a mile up the road, mile and a half up the road,
Up a hill.
up a hill. And yes, we have transportation, but you're not gonna, not a lot of the families are gonna go on a bus to go to the Safeway, to buy groceries for the week and come all the way back down. I just don't see it. I wouldn't do it. And, you know, I'm just concerned that we build all of this stuff, where are people going to be? We have to have some kind of parking. We have to.
When the when the proposals come in, I think that's something that will be evaluated, for sure. And I think most developers understand when they are developing in edge cities around the metro area, they have to provide parking because transit isn't great, or the weather isn't necessarily that friendly out here during the winter.
Right.
Definitely. Well, and then tonight coming here, they were parked down this street on both sides, I don't know which way I'm talking, but coming here, they were parked up around the police station. So, and then we're gonna have Home Forward come in.
And when I pulled in, there's people parking in the parking lot here.
Yeah, and there was a student, they were working on his laptop.
Sitting on the ground.
Yeah.
Leaning up against the car.
Yeah, so how are we
It's
gonna
an
hold,
issue.
how are we gonna hold a meeting if the parking's all gone?
This is Zach, yeah, I mean, you guys are 100% right, preaching to the choir for sure, like we're all on the same page when it comes to that. We have to obviously put whatever reflects like the state laws and stuff in there, but again, if we're pushing our recommended and going back to what the developers understand about generating business, because they're gonna need a return on everything too, like I don't foresee it being a true issue, and it is something that, again, we'll be able to evaluate during the RFQ process and vote on and that sort of thing, and, I 100% agree, but, you know, just following along with kind of what we need to do, but in there, I think we can still kind of push what we want out for people to read and observe and hopefully
So-
follow.
Okay, so then are we gonna reword this to include C-City
Yes.
recommendations?
I have that.
Thank you.
And then, I'm thinking here, I wanna go back to that page. Find it here. Packet page 30, RFQ page 24. When we talk about the vision and plan for the site, I'm thinking about maybe like describing their approach to maximizing parking on site for site development needs.
Right, that would be good.
Like that, yes,
Like that.
I do, thank you. That would make me feel a little bit more at ease that we're at least putting it in there.
I also made a little note on the project goals page to consider if we need to add or modify anything in here about parking. We do mention support of public parking structure, serving the Forest Transit providers, parking rec facility, other transit uses, and Confluence uses to the site itself. So maybe there's a way that we can add something to that or reword that slightly that emphasizes that parking on that site needs to support all of the uses there. The downtown can't take on any.
That's correct.
Parking can, like, the parking impact from this site, it needs to be able to sustain itself, plus
Self-contained.
these other uses that we're asking it to take on.
Sandra, would there be any, would there be any value in encouraging a master developer to work directly with TriMet to possibly encourage more transit out here, in addition to what we want out of parking?
I think the city is always having those conversations with TriMet. And when the site gets developed, I think we will be pulling in the developer, so they can also encourage and support additional transit use.
And the only reason I mention that is because it seems, at least my perception of TriMet of late, is that they seem to be more responsive to business interests and employer needing to move people around rather than the city interests in general.
Well,
It's a balance.
yeah, I would say, unless you're like Amazon, Amazon pays TriMet like 3 million a year just off of this site, and it took them 2 years to get a bus stop.
Well, look how long it took them to get one going down Gleason,
Well, that's true.
up this far. I mean, we were fighting that back in the early 90s, trying to get a bus to come up further because of the high school kids.
And now we have one.
Now we have one, except for the poor bus gets stuck behind traffic when the school's going.
So on page 10, 16, financial obligations. We're talking about the former brownfield site. The city received $1.5 million loan from Business Oregon Brownfields. Do we need to go to that much detail? It seems like the important statements are that the city's invested more than 8 million, right? And we owe 6.5 in debt that would have to be paid back. I mean, does anybody, I don't know, is it important that the city received 1.5 million? I don't know. Who cares?
So we might need to, just put a star next to this, that we should talk possibly with Eric about, or Ray about how to word this, since this isn't, some of these things have changed past
Yeah.
June 1st, 2024,
Okay.
so.
And then on the next page, incentives, you go about halfway down that paragraph and work with the city to identify and flesh out, what is that? Sorry. Flesh out in detail the exact incentives and or subsidies.
Yeah, so that is, when we did this in the past, we asked Ray and management what incentives we have to offer. And the response was, let's not put anything on the table until we see what they wanna give us. And so it was kind of not wanting to offer anything up without knowing what someone else was gonna offer first, so they didn't really wanna document any potential incentives, although it makes it hard for developers to wanna commit or apply for something if they don't know what they could potentially be.
Well, could you put potential instead of?
Where?
Where it says, select a development team inspector with the city to identify potential incentives and take out, flush out.
Was it supposed to be flush out?
I
just
think
don't know
it was
what
supposed to be flush
is.
out. Flush doesn't make sense to me, but should
Think
be,
about it.
yeah.
Well, I've heard it both ways, although the flesh out is usually in more artistic terms,
Yeah.
for like modelers and such, where they're fleshing out a model. But
Either way,
We removed it, it's good, potential.
It's an unnecessary word to be included. We did list I think I already took out one or two of them that, there was one in there that was about, the restaurant subsidy program that we don't have anymore, so it wasn't worth including. So then the list got smaller, and some of it needed to be reworded. And these are just interesting. I don't know if we wanna have a further conversation about what we have written here, and whether we want to change that, or
They're asking what are some other incentives, what do you know of any other incentives? Potentially.
Or there could be regional money for something.
Potential regional,
Yeah. Depending on like who's running Metro,
right,
the state.
yeah, and one of the things that we had talked about was, is there the opportunity to use the SDC payments from that site on, for the infrastructure needed on the site, since it would be new infrastructure?
do we need?
What?
Are you gonna have a heart attack here?
No, I didn't say anything. Use their payments for the site,
Kind of.
for their improvements.
Kind of.
So it'd basically be a trade-off, really. I would think at the
It
end
has
of
to be
the
used for
day,
new infrastructure anyways.
yeah, I think at the end of the day, you're gonna be sliding a briefcase from one side of the table to the other. And then it's just gonna come back. Meaning there isn't really gonna be any money changing hands.
Well, and that's why this
It's
one
gonna be
says,
offset by improvements.
and that's why this one says SDC credit for planned capital improvement projects for the site. So that's basically saying just that, we'll give you the credit instead of you paying for it in the first place, if you're doing it. The lawyers would have to figure out the exact details, but
They would.
They would, the devil's in the details, right?
So we get into like 1218, right, we're talking about the site, and then we do a little bit of this on 1925. I didn't really wordsmith this at all, but this won't be a popular statement, but I'll just make it. Our shortage in housing is more on the high end than it is on the low end. And I think we need to put that out there because I think it's a potential positive more than a negative. That we have a shortage of over 1,000 for incomes over 100,000.
I'm sorry, what page are you on?
1218.
1218.
And then again, we talk about it again on 1925. But we're talking about like on 25 in particular, we're talking about the Home Forward project. And unless they're planning on building Section 8 down there, which I don't know that we were looking at that, we should probably be focused on the high end.
Yeah, we were focused on home ownership. So if we're focusing on more of those home ownership types of housing, it's gonna be higher end housing.
Yeah, then I guess we would say that based on the HNA, we had a shortage of over 1,000. I believe it was 1,041 for the 100,000 plus income group.
Okay, I'll take a look at the HNA.
Okay.
Household earning $100,000 afford higher amenity housing around here? I think so.
Well, I think if you're building market rate, right, and you're thinking of income restricted versus market.
Yeah, no, point taken, but it's an interesting income number to classify in higher amenity housing. In a 100K household, I don't think under many circumstances will even buy a median price house in East County.
You used to sell real estate, this is your fault.
It went through the roof.
This is Diane. Are you done, Danny? No, I'm not trying to
No,
cut
go,
your time.
go ahead, yeah, it's
Okay.
fine, I'll take a break.
Okay, are you sure? I didn't
Yeah.
know. Okay.
Yeah.
Dramatic pause?
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Okay, page 11 on the packet. I wanted to, when I heard different conversations in proposals that were just showing a lot of apartments, somewhere in the packet, I read the word destination development. And that to me struck a chord as to, is that you? As what we were looking for, and I'm just gonna read this quick definition. Strategic planning and advancement of desirable destinations for travelers with a focus on the supply side of tourism by providing compelling experiences, quality infrastructure, and remarkable services to entice visitation. And I added that would support local businesses and create opportunities for the enjoyment of the community. Okay, and I kind of like some of those words because then when I'm looking at page 11, when we're talking about a mixed-use district, then I threw in the words high quality, and then when it says food and beverage, I put in the words exceptional handcrafted food and beverage. But those are just some thoughts instead of like, we're not saying another Dairy Queen, please, another McDonald's, please, another Burger King. Because if we're going for the flavor of the Northwest, and which I really love, Hood River, you have Solstice Pizza, which I frequented when it was on the other side in Lisle. Handcrafted and the flavors of the Northwest and the Gorge and such. And then in here, I'm not seeing the words historic connections. I'm not sure, it might be somewhere else. So when we're talking what makes things vibrant and we're connected to nature and community, but we're also connected to the history. So I don't know where there's a potential to put that in, because I went to the visitor center today, I needed photo ops for someone, and I go, oh my gosh, you guys did such a good job. You put all the planters there, put flowers in them, the space is green, it's vibrant, it's clean, you go inside and you get to see the Depot Museum and the quaint visitor center, and then people were picnicking and foreigners were taking pictures on the trolley. And I go, what a beautiful little space. And it has meaning because there's history involved. And that would help people think to come on down to the barn. You know, we do the music concerts and we have 2 museums there and also whatever we have else that we have that's historic. And when I think I've said this before, like Good Coffee or whatever, what drew them here is the historic places that are here. So the young business person is attracted to that quaintness, the charm, and that experience as well. So, but I'm not seeing it here, how to encourage. So if we're guiding the encouragement of the things that are good within the community, so I don't know how to put that in. Another thing I looked at, and I'm not sure what this means, is high-valued uses that generate robust property tax increment for the TIF district. I'm not sure if that gets confused for developers to say, put in tons of apartments. I'm not sure what's meant here because I think that's a lot of revenue, easy revenue, for a developer is to put in a lot of apartments, or I'm not sure if that's encouraging that. I'm not sure what that verbiage means. If somebody could just explain that to me. Those are my quotes. Oh, also high quality, I looked up the definition and meant quality versus quantity, which I like that as well. So when I'm talking at the top, a mixed high quality district, or I'm not sure how to place it, just, those are just suggestions.
Yeah, no, I put a high-quality mixed-use district, that's what I wrote down from.
I wrote
Your
a
comments.
destination mixed-use district.
Yeah, because destination,
Very cool, but all the adjectives.
it means special, and then we're saying this is set apart, this is something different, this is something unique, special and everything else, and that helps guide, again, whoever's
Yeah.
considering development on this property.
There's another area somewhere in here when we were talking about this and we were like, it says mixed use district so many times. And we started changing out and putting destination and, you know, other adjectives in front of it, and I don't think we caught all of them. Because it says it so many times. But we talked about this at the last meeting about including more destination development terms and things like that. And we can definitely add some more of that in, and some more adjectives that clearly convey what we want, because I was thinking the same thing about how it doesn't really ever imply that we want the commercial businesses that are gonna be in this place to be rooted in the Pacific Northwest, to be like regional, commercial businesses, yeah. Like that's what we really want is, so we want it to feel like the Pacific Northwest, like it's.
Right, and we're unique because we're calling ourselves Gateway to the Gorge, so the Gorge is amazing all in itself, if that's our specific, to set apart from the Pacific Northwest, it is the Gorge experience.
Unique commercial opportunities or something.
And then, I want to touch on your comments made about, you know, about history of place and what that means. I think we heard a lot about that from the committee at our last meeting. We did add one bullet, and we can add some other language to some additional bullets on page 6 here of the RFQ, but we did add use placemaking elements and material choices to tell the stories of our
Wait. Or, say or. Sorry, read it partly. Use placemaking elements and material choices to tell the stories or make reference to the local and regional history. One of the things that we noticed that I did not have time to add to this actually, is that there's nothing in the beginning of this document that tells the history of this property. There's nothing in here that says, you know, that this site was the industrial site for the town, this was the site that sustained the town.
Well, most people don't even know that the train stopped here. It was a train stop. I
Right,
mean, most people don't know that unless you look it up.
So we can add a little section.
Little love letter,
yeah.
with all the quotes and
Yeah.
the history and all the
Yeah.
good stuff.
Well, and like, that's why this section is highlighted in orange, because my comment to myself was, we still need to add the history section.
Potato warehouse.
Other than that, although I probably won't use the photo of the
Hillary?
Surely.
slaughterhouse.
But you remember the mail bag?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I'll use the photo of all the employees on their lunch
No,
picnic
I don't
instead of
remember. I wasn't here before the
the
mailbag.
giant
Seriously?
carcass hanging.
You don't remember the mail bag?
But that's so metal.
I think because, I mean, I
That
moved here
offers
in
all sorts of
80.
Halloween possibilities.
They really don't.
Hanging out there.
Yeah, and they have a hook and they come along, just take the,
It was just out there.
then, yeah, just out there dangling. And remember
When we come up with a
water?
bar name, and we can't remember what it is.
Water.
Dang it.
Tank and fill up the steam engine.
But it was on the metal side of things, dealing
Nice.
with the site.
Excellent.
And
That's
the
what you told me
important,
now.
It was good.
Yeah, but when I remember when I was working on this before, I made a whole timeline of the history of the site, and it didn't really get captured in here. It is on the Confluence website. So, I can pull some of that information and put it in here and include some of the photos, because I think that was one of the things too, that the buildings don't remain, the water tower does, the buildings don't, but that doesn't mean that the stories can't continue to live on in the design elements and the material choices. And we were talking about how, you know, with the north north side of Historic Columbia River Highway, we have all of these different styles of buildings. They're all built between 1998 2002, so they're not old. But everyone who comes to town thinks that they're old. And we haven't really talked a lot about what style of architecture we would necessarily all want on the site. But given it was the city's industrial site, like it could lean more industrial if we wanted it to look more industrial, and that would feel natural just because that's what it was. Versus trying to make it look more, I don't know, traditional. But, you know, these are all things that we were just discussing and trying to figure out. But if we don't tell the story to the developer, then the developer's never gonna
know what
Not
to do.
diff-
know
yeah.
what they could potentially do with it or see the vision that we might have for it. So I think we've talked a lot about the history, and I think that this site really does have a lot of it, and yeah, even though the old buildings don't remain, that doesn't mean the stories can't live on. And I did make a whole movie board related to this earlier today, so just include that.
So do we want to talk about timeline? I mean, obviously the timeline that's in the back is just a placeholder.
Yeah, I brought that up earlier,
Oh,
so I
okay.
already marked it up.
We're just gonna say TBD for now until we know the actual dates. We talked about that, you know, maybe doing it in February or March, I think at the last meeting is what we said.
Yeah, I think at our last meeting, we thought putting out the RFQ like mid-January, and then the deadline would be early April. If it was a good solid, 2 months. Month and a half,
2 months, 2.5 months.
2.5 months.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if we maybe push it back to mid-March.
I left out March there.
You skipped a month
I
in there?
skipped a month.
So maybe mid-April to, mid-January to mid-March, that's 2 months.
I think they needed to extend it last time, didn't they?
Yeah,
They did extend it last
Yeah.
time.
I was gonna say
And that-
May.
Really that long?
Well, do you want them down there in February,
Mm.
traipsing around the site?
Well,
This is gonna be great.
As the east winds
we
blow in.
need some hardy folk to be able to develop down there. That's part of the test.
February isn't actually the worst one.
Well, it's usually the coldest.
It's
End of
usually the one
month.
that we get a snowstorm or an ice storm.
Well,
But
see,
if you sent it out,
Start of spring.
like, let's say you sent it out the 1st of February.
First February.
Let's say you did that, and then you brought it back in May.
Or 1st of April, they still have 2 months.
I mean, this is Zach, I'm kind of, I'm obviously an proponent of moving things along. I know we're already waiting because of the election, we're already waiting because of the holidays, we're already waiting for all these things. If we get it out in January, first of the year, after all that kind of stuff is passed, they can walk it again in March or April, or whenever, March or whatever, if they have to like make any last changes, I would think, like the site's still the site, they can, I don't know, I would hope that they would be able just to do their job. But maybe that's too much to ask.
Well, I'm also thinking if we extend it, like we did last time,
Mm-hmm.
if it's like the 1st of April, now we're gonna bump it out to the 1st of May. So where if we have it the 1st of February through April, we can extend it, but if you do it 3 months, then you extend it to 4 months instead of 2 months to 3 months.
Well, based on the extension last time, I'm fine with a longer timeline, but I would rather just start it when we can.
How about, I'm just gonna throw this out here, like mid-January to early April.
Isn't
I'll
that,
look at the calendar and figure out.
isn't that what we had
Originally, that's what we talked about at the last meeting.
So that's 2.5 months.
And if it needed to be extended, then we could extend it. see some head nods.
This is Shirley, I do agree with Zach on that we should kind of move it. And like you said, if it doesn't, we can extend it, so.
Okay.
The trail construction will be going on that whole time too, so that can help make it look more
Oh, there we go. Nice.
President doesn't take
As they're walking on the ice and being blown by the wind, they'll see a beautiful park.
Smell of fresh asphalt.
President
I mean,
doesn't
they,
take off.
I just.
Supply hand warmers
January.
and,
January.
Yeah, right.
yeah, face warmers.
Supposed to be visionaries, they gotta be able to picture.
Yeah, I mean,
And a lot of times they do, we can picture things now from satellite images
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Google Maps as well.
And we had some good results last time with that time frame too, so I'm not sweating.
What about the evaluation criteria? Any thoughts? Yeah, I'm trying to remember and what we did last time. I mean, this is what we did last time, but I feel like I recall we had some debate over whether we should have done these numbers differently, or maybe when we got into the ranking part of it, we were like, are we evaluating them as one single ranking, or? I feel like I just recall that there was like confusion when we did it before, how this was translating into the actual rankings.
So this Tammy, I thought it was basically that was a maximum number of points, and then we just evaluated each one. Right? Went down through them. And I guess it would be whoever's scaling this, if it's staff, the deal terms is gonna be like 90, and then the rest of these are gonna be really small.
Well, and that's not what's reflected on here, because if that were the case, then it would be 90 and then all the others, so.
Just saying if you didn't do it.
It's just like what happens if you have three developers, and they all score differently in each category, but then their total ends up being the exact same. So are we ranking each category, or are we ranking the total? Is there more emphasis on one category than the other?
Well,
It would imply that there is because of the breakdown of numbers, but.
or do you wanna just sort of punt that question until you start evaluating? Because, it may,
That too.
depending on what sort of submissions we get and how they get evaluated, may be a non-issue. It may very well be a clear winner.
This is Jim, I agree. If you put this here, they're gonna heavily focus on some areas and maybe not on others. So they don't explore that, or don't expose that up front.
This, Tammy, part of this was done really for our benefit and the council's benefit more than it was done for the developers.
Putting it in.
It was done so that there was more emphasis, Diana will probably nod her head, and John too. John, nod your head. But it was done more so that we kept our focus on the plan and the site and not just on,
on the deal and the
Right.
financial end of it.
This is Jim. Could that be in an addendum document for that group rather than something that the candidates are gonna be using? I don't know if that's,
Well, I do think it would be, I don't think this is gonna really change much for them. They're just gonna know that they better have a really compelling vision, which personally, I think that's the first thing we're gonna look at anyhow. So we might as well say up front, hey, this is the most important thing to us. Because I think we're looking at that more than we're looking at the financial piece.
Yeah, so actually, my only comment on this section would be to move the vision and plan of the site, the 45 points, to the top.
yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right.
That's my only change.
This is,
Go ahead.
thank you. This is Zach. Are we gonna be potentially utilizing the resources we had last time, like Abe and, some of those other consultants that we were, or is that kind of up in the air at this point still?
I think ABS.
Steve Marcus,
Yeah, potentially.
potentially,
Okay.
I can see that happening.
Because he's been involved with this for years,
Right.
longer than the other consultants were.
Okay.
We haven't had a conversation or anything with the other consultants, but Abe is aware of it.
There was somebody else last time too.
It was Alex Joyce from SD.
Alex Joyce and Matt
Matt Brown,
Brown.
Matt Brown, not from YBA Architects, Matt Brown, the other Matt Brown.
The other Matt Brown, yeah.
From a different development group. So yeah, we could, probably have a conversation about what other professionals we'd wanna have assisting us
In the process, yeah.
That would be valuable.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely valuable last time to have the perspectives from others
Mm-hmm.
and the ability to ask questions of people who have done developments like this before,
Mhm.
work on those sort of projects.
I would think the makeup of this team is gonna need somebody to analyze the financial capacity in real terms. Also,
Of their team.
of the, on here. I mean, because as you said, for the city, that's gonna be 90%. Because if they can have a fantastic plan, and the city can't come to terms on a deal, it's not gonna go through.
Right, but what we're doing is we're putting the focus in areas other than the financial piece.
Right. But the city's gonna want, they're gonna wanna put some focus in theirs,
Well, they don't,
just to make sure
they
that
don't get to, because we can just
Work out.
ride this right to council and be done with it.
So the urban renewal agency is probably gonna be
Asking some questions.
who would, you know, come
Yeah.
up with the finalization of the incentive package,
Right.
plan, and, you know, deal terms and all those other sort of things, and I think that, from my understanding, nothing's been, like, you know, it'd be great to get a check for this much amount of money, and that's what it is. But that wasn't really what we received previously, and I think it really depends on what's proposed in the vision, because if they're meeting a lot of these things that the public and that the community has an interest in having and seeing, then are you willing to pay for those things, is what it comes down to. And they might decide that they're willing to pay for those things, or they're not willing to pay for those things.
You can have $100 million development where the city doesn't get any money, or you can have a $50 million development where the city gets 10 million.
Right.
Which is better?
Depends.
Depends.
the city maybe a lot more money down the road off of that one.
Exactly.
Big picture.
Well, ultimately, it's all gonna come down to the vision and what sort of compromises are made, because, I mean, as we have heard on many occasions, part of the goal, in addition to having a nice, wonderful development that links in with the rest of the community, is we do need to make some money out of this, right, over the long term.
Well, the TIF will take care of that. You know, and that's kind of the plan. You mean as far as selling the land?
Well, and just, I mean, having a vibrant economic engine that adds to our local economy. I mean, that's, I mean, having something that is very pretty and engaged with the community that isn't an economic benefit to the local region, I mean, doesn't necessarily gain us a lot. Like I said, compromise.
Pardon me?
Like I said, it's gonna be a compromise, it's gonna be somewhere in between of the extremes of full commercial, make oodles of money and very, very pretty.
Well, if there's a hotel on the site, that's transient lodging tax as well, so it's not just, property taxes. So that's a use that would earn the city income in other ways.
Well, just like, okay, if you've got a decent amount of commercial, it's gonna be taxed at a higher rate. So you're gonna have more coming in, you're also gonna have payroll taxes, employment taxes. You're gonna have people making more money, which means they're spending more money. A little more of a driver.
And if you get the combination right, they're spending more money here.
Right.
Any more comments? All right. I lost my computer, so it did. So is Paul still on here?
Yes.
Paul, do you have any input? No comment. All right.
We've got Paul, we've got Frank. Does Frank have any input?
Let's go.
He's good.
I'm good, thanks.
Staff communication?
Let's see here, we have the official date for the Sandy River Trail, groundbreaking and the Chalk Chalk Trail grand opening on October
10th, Thursday, October 10th. Our groundbreaking will be from 1:30 to 2:30 in the afternoon on the north side of the park site, closer to the, I-84 bridge there.
What day?
Thursday, October 10th. And then after the little groundbreaking ceremony, folks can walk up to the new Chalk Chalk ribbon cutting ceremony.
Yep. So we will see you all there.
Two celebrations in one day.
Yep.
That's how we maximize the party around here.
John will be bringing cookies.
Excuse me, October 10th.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, 10. So yeah, we hope to see you guys all there. drawing a blank right now, unless anyone has questions.
I don't have any additional updates for the committee at this time. I think this was a great conversation this evening. Following up with you on your comments from the last meeting. We're gonna come back at the next meeting here with the final draft document. And our next meeting will be October, I don't have my calendar out.
17.
17th, great.
And then when does this go to the URA?
That has been tentatively scheduled after this committee kind of gives the thumbs up on this new RFP draft. So that could be in November, hopefully, let's cross our fingers. And I will put it tentatively on their schedule. So they know it's coming down the pike.
Yeah, because if we're looking at it going out in
January.
it needs to get approved.
Yep.
Finalized.
You could have some interesting counselors in January.
All right, Shirley,
I have nothing.
nothing.
I thought it was a good meeting. I had a question though. I drove back there, back behind the mall to just see a reminder for me of what all that looks like. There was tents back there, homeless
It's not
people
safe
sleeping
back
there.
there.
Huh?
Don't go back there, it's not safe.
Well, that's what Rick said when he said, turn around. So I don't know, is that even being monitored back there? Because there was bicyclists and it was a beautiful, beautiful day, but I was a little concerned about having walkers and bikers and then tents right there.
For what part of the property were the tents on?
It was just right at the opening, so,
Right under the underpass.
yeah.
Under the underpass,
Mhm.
that's, oh, wow.
But it's, I mean, that whole area is monitored.
Okay.
Folks do go out there and, see what's going on.
We can ask Ray to ask the sheriff's office to handle it.
There's a group that goes with them out there to help.
Yeah, I think that they might have been reassigned to downtown Portland for a little bit right now, so I don't know what the elections and whatnot. I don't know all the details, but normally at the visitor center, I see 4 sheriff's officers drive by on their quads to go over to the Sandy River Delta. But we've also had issues with the bollards that used to be on leading up to the ODOT bike trail
Right.
are gone, and cars are able to drive that now,
Or a semi-truck.
or a semi-truck.
Well, and it's the metal part, that's why they're gone.
So we should probably see if us plus the port can push, especially before our groundbreaking and ceremony.
We've already had that conversation, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting some of those things improved on. Frank is laughing because we were just talking about it the other day about the cars that are able to now.
Actually, can I jump in, Marley?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually went to East Multnomah County Transportation Committee to discuss the bollards. I've also applied to the State Lands Department, talking to them, also talking to OPRD, the Oregon Parks and Rec Department. Yeah. I am concerned about, you said that you saw a house list down there, because I run that route like every day, and underneath the highway on our side, the Troutdale side, I have not seen any house lists at all. Maybe a little bit of trash, and that's about it. However, I do see them at the opening on the right behind the mall occasionally. And the mall security guys take care of that pretty quickly. So you don't normally see houseless communities popping up there. So if you're seeing that, I'd be happy to help you out with that. And I'm already going down. I'm actually on the file system right now while talking to you guys. So yeah.
So we'll coordinate with those people, and Frank is coordinating with those people too, to hopefully get those bollards back in place and make sure that it's cleaned up and looking okay.
Especially when we have all this going out and everything,
Yeah.
you know, if we have it, look, you know, I just have visions of Portland, of how, you know, they start and then they all come. I just didn't want that down there, and then having a developer go down there and go, why am I gonna do this? And I'm gonna have to deal with the homeless, and I'm gonna have to, you know, that's my concern.
Pretty soon, people will be doing work down there, and, you know, I think that'll kind of deter people.
Good.
Danny,
Yes, sir.
do you have any?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, just wanna say I appreciate you guys' work. I think that slogan is really good, with kind of including everything and the corrections and whatnot. It's a good discussion, so I appreciate you guys' efforts on that, and looking forward to seeing the final draft. That's all I got.
Yeah, I concur, quality work, thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. I have two off-topic things. I went to the visitor center, and the sweatshirts are awesome. So a new item, so beautiful. So Christmas gifts now, yeah, there. And then also with the Stark Street bridge being down, we're getting additional traffic. I live by the bridge, the Troutdale Bridge, and there's a lot of speeding going on. So I am recommending, it's probably not the right place, but a speed monitor, the thing that says how fast you're going, maybe at least right when you get towards the visitor center. So if they haven't slowed down by the time they went through the bridge, you know, then maybe they're cautioned, at least of just a little mental reminder to slow down.
Yeah, that curve is, I've noticed a lot of people speeding around that curve, so I would just say that. And yes, there's been a lot more traffic through downtown since Stark Street Bridge has been closed. So if you are going through downtown, just be aware of that.
I would add to hers, that speed sign is up behind the Home Depot where the kids like to race down there in their cars. It actually slowed everybody down, so that is a good visual.
Nothing additional to add.
Great discussion tonight. I always like hearing from everybody, and I know a major milestone on the Home Forward project. They started pouring concrete today for footings, so lots of progress happening there. So I get to watch it all.
You love it.
Oh yeah. Construction is interesting. I like the engineering of it. It's interesting stuff. And after months and years of talking about it, it's actually sort of refreshing to see it evolve and happen.
I told Diane today, with all of the traffic and my Troutdale, we need to have some of the others stopping people and telling them they have to go and get ice cream and have to spend some money in Troutdale. They're using our streets. It's gonna have to be going on for several months, probably.
We're saying we need a toll?
Pardon?
No, we need to have a giant, we need to have
Inflatables
yeah.
all throughout town.
I have
Blowing in
somebody
the
dressed
wind.
in a fish outfit standing there, buy ice cream
I've been
here.
trying to buy a fish outfit for years now, so it's a great reason.
And an interesting thing that I saw a couple weeks ago, we were in after a day in the gorge, we had stopped in Stevenson. And some of their downtown intersections, they've got these little buckets next to it with bright yellow flags that people take and sort of alert traffic. And it's a fascinating idea that I think could potentially increase pedestrian visibility. And then in addition to the bright yellow flag, you can buy ice cream on it.
21 flavors.
All right. Anybody want to move to close this meeting?
This is Carol, I make a motion that we close.
This is Shirley, I second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You could just stay here.